quality healthcare for people with pre-existing condition. She is also an author of a book called My Healthcare is Killing Me. So if everybody please welcome with a round of applause, Julian Klein.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. I am the face of a pre-existing condition. Actually, I'm the survivor of 2 stage 3 cancers on an HMO when it was legal to discriminate against people with pre-existing conditions. And the experience horrified me so deeply that I wrote a book about it. So my book is written in journal form. It's a diary form. So I wanted to share my story because when it was happening to me, it felt so heartbreaking, and I felt like it was just happening to me. But the more that I heard other people's stories, and I heard so many people since the ACA and the threat of the appeal of ACA, I heard so many other people's stories that were so similar to my own. So I want to share with you, and I'm so happy that you all came out today because I want to share with you my story. So when I was 12 years old, I moved with my family to Coral Springs. I went to Coral Springs High School, then I went to community college, then I graduated from FAU with a degree in liberal arts, which basically qualified me to do absolutely nothing when I graduated college. I had no marketable job skills. So in those days, the way we got jobs is to look in the want ads. Remember the classifieds? So I answered an ad for a customer service representative. Little did I know it was for the cellular industry. So I thought I was all the rage. In my 20s, I'm driving around with a big brick phone in my car. So I stayed with that industry, and I was actually downsized when I worked for a smaller company. So I knew what it was like to lose your job, therefore you lose your health insurance. But I quickly found another job, and I ended up working for Bell South Mobility. Well, what happened was, well, let me back up a minute. I'm a little nervous too. So what happened was, it was a great job with great health insurance, and I always knew how important that was. And I worked my way up into management. Then eventually I got my dream job, which was a training job. So it was my job to teach people how to treat people. So when customers would call in and they'd be upset about their bill, I would teach their customer service reps how to calm people down. There's tools and techniques that you can use to tell people you've reached the right person. I'm gonna help you. You know, so that was my personality anyway. I always put people first. Well, I was downsized, and it was in my mid-40s, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what, I've lived such a stressful life, and living in a corporate job, you really don't have much energy or time for anything else. So I wanted to change my lifestyle. So I left the umbrella of the corporate life knowing that, all right, I gotta do something about healthcare. So I found the best insurance I could find. It was an HMO, and I found the most affordable insurance I could find, but I knew without the umbrella of a large corporation, it wasn't gonna be the best insurance. And I ended up taking a job as a manager for Curves Fitness for Women, and I thought it was gonna be just a really healthy, great, fun time in my life. I learned to dance for the first time in my 40s, and I met a great guy who owned a dance studio, and we became friends, so life was really good. Now this was in October of 2007, and then I found a lump, a hard golf ball size lump. Now, how many of you have ever gone through anything on an HMO with the referral process? Okay, we gotta talk about the referral process, because you haven't lived until you're trying to get something accomplished with the referral process. When you go to your primary doctor, it almost becomes irrelevant if you're on an HMO. It doesn't matter how good the doctor is. What you really need is a good referral person, right? You know what I've been through. So I find the lump, I go to my primary doctor. He's like, I gotta send you to a gynecologist. So I wait for the referral and go to the gynecologist. So the gynecologist feels it and says, you know what, don't panic, let's go for an ultrasound and a mammogram. So I have to go back to my primary doctor to get the referral, and then I go for the ultrasound and the mammogram. I go for the ultrasound and the mammogram, and each one of these things, you're just terrified, because you know there's something in your body that doesn't belong there. So I wait for the results, and it turns out that, yes, the mammogram is suspicious. So then I have to go back to my primary doctor, who sends me for a referral to a breast surgeon. I gotta go meet the breast surgeon, and he tells me, I think you need a biopsy. So I have to go back to my primary doctor, wait for the referral, and all of this is taking all of this time. I get the referral, go back for the biopsy. Yeah, it turns out that it's cancer. So then I have to go back to my primary doctor, who refers me to an oncologist. Okay, this goes on and on and on. And actually, finding the lump in October, I did not get my first treatment until February 14th. I remember because it was Valentine's Day. All of the delays. And with cancer, everything you hear is early detection, early detection. So actually, there's this stuff, I write about this in my book. I feel so helpless that there's this juice called Palm Wonderful that's supposed to have all these antioxidants in it. So I just go and I keep guzzling this Palm Wonderful because I can't get to my conventional treatment. So anyway, I just want to give you, and I write about all the delays in my book, but I just want to tell you how crazy this can be. So I get a call before I'm supposed to go, because I need chemo. So I'm supposed to go for a test to make sure that my heart is strong enough to withstand the chemo. It's called a MUDA scan. So the day before I'm supposed to go for the test, and I'm an anxious person anyway, so I'm not faring real well here emotionally. So the day before I get a phone call and it says, I'm sorry, Miss Klein, you can't go for your test. I'm like, why not? I don't know, you have to call your insurance company. So I call my insurance company up, and the first person I talked to could care less. You know, they're like, I'm like, I got cancer, I need this test, how come I can't have it? And I'm like, I don't really know. And I said, well, let me talk to your supervisor. So you guys know how that is. Now, because I worked in a large corporation and because I was in management, I knew how to go up the food chain. I knew that if you're talking to somebody and they're not making any sense, you ask to talk to their supervisor, and you keep going up the ladder until you get an answer. And I always worry about the people that don't have that skill set. I'm afraid that they die. So I finally get to the fifth person, and this takes days. I finally get to the fifth person, and you know what the problem is? You know why I can't get the test done? Miss Klein, it's not that you can't get the test. You can get the test done, but you can't have it done in a freestanding building. I'm like, what are you talking about? You can have the test, but you can't have the test done if the place that you're going to is in any way, shape, or form attached to a hospital or a clinic. Why not? Because it costs more. So I said, well, can you give me a list? And they're like, well, we're real busy. It'd be easier if you did it yourself. So here I am, terrified. I know I've got cancer. I need this treated. And I'm spending my time calling up facilities, sounding like a crazy woman, asking about their architecture. It just doesn't make any sense. So fast forward, I get through a year and a half, and I do want to say, I want to compliment the advances in medicine, because the particular cancer that I had was very aggressive and very deadly. And if I would have been diagnosed with it 5 years ago, I would have been dead. But there was a drug called Herceptin that saved my life. So we have these advances in the medical system, but we haven't caught up emotionally, and we haven't caught up compassionately. That was another point of writing my book. You know, I was fighting for my life, and the longer you're in the medical system and you're treated with such callousness and such disregard for your humanity, and you're talking to people, it's just another Tuesday to them, and you're fighting for your life, it does something to you after a while. So anyway, I get through the breast cancer, and I don't think I'm not going to recover. You know, I get through, and I'm pretty unscathed. My hair's going to grow back. I'm going to be okay again. I'm a little weak. I go for a follow-up GYN exam, and my gynecologist says, I think you have something on your ovary. I think you have a cyst on your ovary. Now, it's not unusual for women with breast cancer to also have their ovaries out. So I said, okay, let's just get it done. He said, it's a very simple procedure. It goes through your belly button. I always get this word wrong, laparoscopically. Mm-hmm. So I'm just expecting this to be in a very easy outpatient procedure. I go in, and I wake up, and I'm admitted to the hospital, and a doctor had to be called in, a special doctor, because this was over my doctor's had my gynecologist. And it turns out I had a tumor wrapped around my appendix. A week later, I'm back home again, and George and I are sitting watching a movie. It's 10 o'clock at night. I get a phone call from my breast surgeon. And he says, Julie, I've got some really bad news. Shocking, really. We're shocked. You have a rare, deadly form of appendix cancer called mucinous adenocarcinoma. That just rolls off my tongue. He says, the wrong surgery was done on you. Since they didn't know they were dealing with cancer, they could have spread your cancer throughout your entire digestive tract. You're gonna need another very extensive surgery and 6 more months of chemo. And we don't think there's anyone in Florida that can treat you. This is such a rare, specific cancer. And by the way, The Good Doctor is featuring someone with this cancer on their show on November 5th or 6th. He said, you're gonna have to call a specialist and go out of your insurance network. So I call up this specialist, and a woman answers the phone, and I said, yeah, I'd like to make an appointment for a consultation. And she said, this doctor is far busy to do consultations. When you are ready to save your life, she asked me what my diagnosis was, and I told her. She said, when you are ready to save your life, bring $30,000 to our facility. Your insurance will not cover this procedure. If you don't come and get this treated at our facility with a special in appendix cancer, you will die within 2 years. This kind of cancer always comes back. So that's what I go to bed at night thinking about every night. So in the meantime, my father had, you know, like they say when tragedy comes, it kind of comes in threes, you know? So my father had been diagnosed with cancer, and I had gone with him to support him, and I met his oncologist, and I really liked him. Those of you that want to read my book, I refer to my gynecologist I nicknamed Dr. Scary. So I certainly didn't want to go back to her again. So I actually went to my dad's gynecologist, and I told him everything, the whole story, and he said, I got this, Julie. I got a really good local colon surgeon. He can take care of this for you. What we'll do is we'll have the surgery, and then you'll have 6 more months of chemo. And he goes, the procedure that they wanted to do, the specialist wanted to do, and I won't go into it too graphically because I hope you all had lunch, you know, it's gross. Basically, they remove part of your colon and put this hot chemo right into your digestive tract. So he said, you're not going to be able to withstand that. You're just coming out of breast cancer treatment. You're far too weak. And he goes, I think we can do this and treat you conventionally. And he said to me, when you are 65, you and I are going to call that specialist because you're still going to be around. That's a doctor. So I get through the treatment, and you can imagine, because anyone that knows anyone that's gone through cancer, it's cumulative, meaning the more you go through, the weaker you get, the sicker you get, the more tired you get. So I was as broken as a person can be. I mean, I was just really, really in a bad way. So I just want to read a small excerpt to kind of take you to where I was at that time. April 27th, 2010. My last treatment was 5 weeks ago. Everyone asks with an eager smile, how you feeling? I know they want me to say great. I am as far from great as anyone can get. I feel so much pressure from everyone around me to bounce back and be Julie again. Yes, I'm alive and I'm grateful for that, but I feel ancient. Every bone in my body hurts. I suppose it's how someone feels recovering from being hit by a bus, then crawling into the street and getting hit by a bigger bus over and over and over and over again. My hands and feet burn as if they're on fire. My brain doesn't work. I can't read more than a few words and not comprehend what I have read. I'm so tired. A fatigue that is not alleviated by sleep. It is a fatigue that all of the positive thoughts and gratitude for being alive can't make any better. I can't talk my way out of this. I can't think positive thoughts and focus on the fact that I'm alive, because in truth, I'm not really alive. Sadly, I don't know what to do to rebuild some kind of quality of life. How do I pull myself back together, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially? I've been battling cancer from October 2007 to April 2010. Is cancer winning? And just when you think it can't get any worse, I get a letter in the mail from my insurance company, unsigned. We regret to inform you we are no longer offering health care in your area. They attach a list of companies I can call to try to get insurance for myself. Let me remind you where we are politically. I'm actually too sick to go anywhere, so I'm actually watching the debate in this country with these well-heeled congressmen in suits debating whether health care is a privilege or a right in this country. And I'm having to call person after person trying to get health care for myself. Now, at that time, they can discriminate. So what the story is, the people that didn't laugh me off the phone basically said, well, we can insure you. It'll be about $1,000 a month, but it precludes any of your pre-existing conditions, meaning any problem I have related to either cancer isn't covered. So I just want to read the next excerpt from my book. I can find it here. Thank you. April 30th, 2010. I wake up, see the letter on the end table by my bed, and start to feel rage. I don't understand how this can happen to me. I've never been without insurance my entire adult life. Even when I changed jobs, I had decided whether to risk being without coverage or pay higher COBRA rates. I always opted to pay the higher rates. I didn't want to risk getting hurt or sick and not having health insurance. I'm so damn responsible. If this can happen to me, this can happen to anybody. What's wrong with this picture? I paid into the system for 35 years without even asking for so much of it as an aspirin. Then when I actually start to need some care, I get a letter in the mail. Sorry, sucker, we milked you while you were healthy, but now you have to fend for yourself. I feel like I'm being thrown away because I'm no longer cost effective. So the message I want to say to you is I want you to remember my story. And when you go out and knock on doors and when you talk to people, this isn't just my story. This is a story over and over again, and it breaks my heart. Do you know, when I was sitting in a chemo room, I actually had a gentleman who had a family say, you know what, my cancer's treatable, but I can't work, and I'm going to put my family in debt, so I really have to make a decision whether or not to treat my cancer and leave my family destitute. This is not a choice we should be making in this country. No. So when we vote, and you guys are doing such a good job by fighting, and I thank you for fighting, because often I'm too weak to fight for myself, to go out and knock on doors. I can't do it, but you guys can. And I want to thank you so much, because this literally is a matter of life and death. Thank you.